Welcome to another episode of Game Room, everyone, the show where we just geek out about video games, and earlier this week on our comic book show, we did a top 20 Marvel characters we want to see in Marvel Vs Capcom Infinite. So today, we're going to count down the top 20 Capcom characters we want in the game. Now, before we begin, we have to do two quick rules. First one is that all of these characters have to be characters who have not yet appeared in a Marvel vs. Capcom game. So even though I'd love to grab some of the weird crazy characters from MVC2 and shove them in here, I won't be doing that. And the second rule is that I'm limiting myself to 2 characters per franchise, because if I didn't do that, then this whole list would be nothing but Darkstalkers and Rival School characters. Also, quick side note, Capcom, give us another Rival Schools and Darkstalkers. But alright, let's get into our top 20, but first, a few honorable mentions. Kicking us off at number 20 is Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil. I remember when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was announced and we were all still riding that high off of Resident Evil 4. It was a massive success, made a huge impact on the gaming community, helped to define the rest of the Resident Evil franchise, so we couldn't wait to see Leon pop up in... Oh, hey, Chris, what are you doing here? Yes, Resident Evil 5 had just come out, so they decided to put Chris Redfield in this game instead, which, hey, Chris is fine, but at the time, everyone I knew was saying, yeah, why isn't it Leon? So I say we take this opportunity to correct that mistake and sub Leon back in. And not mopey emo Leon from Resident Evil 6, I'm talking hunky saving the president's daughter Leon from Resident Evil 4. Only reason he's so low on the list is because, well, yeah, he'd just fight with guns and rocket launchers, so he'd basically play the same as Chris from the last game, so it felt cheap to put him any higher.
Monsters. Guess after this there'll be one less to worry about.
Number 19, Samanosuke Akichi from Onimusha. There was a time when the Onimusha series was one of Capcom's biggest franchises. It was almost on the same level as Resident Evil, and then it just kind of faded away and nobody thought about it anymore. Well, I say we don't let this franchise just go off into the night. Let's take the original protagonist and bring him into this game. He's a samurai that fights demons. You don't think that he and Doctor Strange would have some interesting stuff to talk about? And for his super moves, he could bring out different armors or change his body into different forms to give him stat boost, such as bringing out his red demon armor or the Oni Awakened form. Number 18, Princess DEVILOTTE from CYBERBOTS FULLMETAL Madness. One of the things that I love the most about the Marvel vs. Capcom series is that the Capcom side always includes some crazy obscure characters from games that never even came to America. I remember when Jin popped up in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and everyone went, who the heck is that? And I don't care, he has a giant robot that attacks for him. That's awesome. So ever since then, I've always wanted to get another character from CYBERBOTS in here, just to get some more crazy giant Japanese robot action. And granted, I've never actually been able to play this game, but based on what I've read about and what I've seen from her appearance in other games, I've got to pick Princess DEVILOTTE. She's some crazy stuck-up princess that fights with a robo-octopus and has an army of monsters and Frankensteins at her disposal. I remember when I played Project Cross Zone and she threatened to merge people together into patchwork monsters, and I thought, well, she seems quirky, and I do love quirky characters in fighting games. Number 17, Bass from MEGAMAN. Pretty much every version of Marvel vs. Capcom has had some version of MEGAMAN or at least another hero from the MEGAMAN franchise, but we've never gotten any villains from there. Well, it looks like all that is going to change in this one because I'm 90% sure that the final boss in this game is going to be Ultron merged with Sigma. But I say we keep going. Let's bring one of Mega Man's greatest rivals, Bass, into this game. Plus, we've already got Mega Man X in this game, and I think every diehard Mega Man fan out there will agree it would just be the coolest to see X square off with base. Number 16, the PALICOES from Monster Hunter. The Monster Hunter series has continued to be one of Capcom's biggest hits with a very large and loyal fanbase. However, you can't really grab any characters from here since you basically just create your own character in each game. In fact, the only characters you do get in here either don't fight or they're not really memorable enough to use. Except the PALICOES. Yes, your little kitty companions that follow you around and help you out. Sure, there isn't any one in particular to choose from, but remember in Marvel Vs. Capcom 2 when you got to fight as a serve-bot? Yeah, basically just do the same thing. Just take a random Palico to act as your main fighter, but they keep throwing out other Palicos or forming into giant Palico mobs to attack your opponent, and then for their supers, they summon out any one of the many giant monsters this franchise is known for, with their level 3 super of course being the Gore Magala. Number 15, Jean from God Hand. God Hand is one of those franchises that isn't that well known, but its fan base is strong. I remember when Marvel Vs. Capcom 3 was coming out, and even though not many people had played the game, he was still one of the most talked about characters for the roster. And I'd be totally fine with him popping up because not only would he fight with a barrage of crazy punches like the Chun-Li of Fist, but also, as I've mentioned before, I'm not just looking for strong characters, I'm looking for characters with quirky personalities, and Jean is kind of, how should I sum this up, a jerk. So I'd love to see what dialogue he'd exchange with the other characters, and of course for his super move, he'd unleash the power of his double God Hand. I promise you that is a very impressive thing. Number 14, IBUKI from Street Fighter. Alright, as I said, I could only put 2 characters per franchise on this list, and that included Street Fighter. So I had to be careful about who I chose. But for the first slot, I'm going to have to give it to IBUKI. Not only has she always been a fun character to play as in the game, but she is also a giant fan favorite character. Plus, when I was making this list, I wasn't just looking at character popularity or their powers, I also thought, who would be a fun character to cross over with a Marvel character? And if you watched my last video, then you know that Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, was way up there on that list. And I would love to see the dialogue exchange between these two. 2 young fighters trying to lead normal school lives but being dragged into battle by their ancient families that they're a part of. It's a cross-dimensional friendship waiting to happen. Number 13.
Objection!
FRANZISKA von Karma from Phoenix Wright. I was so happy to see Phoenix Wright pop up in the last game, but the creators of the series said that they didn't want to use him because they couldn't think of how to turn him into a fighting game character. And I can understand that. I mean, he's not a fighter, he's a lawyer, and not the type that was trained by ninjas. But I think they did an amazing job interpreting that character and turning everything about his game into a move. But if they wanted to swap him out for another character from this franchise who you actually could see fighting in one of these games, FRANZISKA von Karma is the perfect choice. Not only could you still use some of Nick's special moves like putting them on trial, but she actually fights with a whip in the courtroom. You could actually have her throw some punches in the fight and it wouldn't be out of character. Number 12, John TALBAIN from Darkstalkers. There needs to be way more Darkstalkers characters in Marvel vs. Capcom. Heck, there just needs to be more Darkstalkers, period, but for now, I'll just sell with getting more characters in this game. Yes, Felicia and Morgan are nice, but where's the big blue werewolf? I loved playing as that guy when I was a kid, and yet Capcom has forgotten him. I seriously have nothing else to say, just give me John TALBAIN. And another Darkstalkers game. Next character. Number 11, Ada Wong from Resident Evil. If we're going to get some more Resident Evil characters in this game, there's really only one who it can be, Ada Wong. Not only is she one of the most iconic characters in the game's history, returning over and over again from one game to the next. I mean, heck, we just got a weird vague phone call in the Resident Evil 7 demo and everyone instantly said, that's Ada. But also, whereas most of the protagonists from Resident Evil would fight pretty much the same, using lots of guns, a rocket launcher, maybe throwing a zombie here or there, Ada is one of the few characters who would fight completely different. She focuses more on agility and gadgets rather than just blowing your opponent away. She's basically the exact opposite of Chris Redfield and Wesker, so if you're getting more Resident Evil characters in here, she would be the best choice to liven things up. Number 10, ZACK and WIKI. Alright, now I've already said that one of the things that I really love about the Versus games is that they give more obscure Capcom characters a chance to shine. They let those characters who never got that time in the spotlight a chance to recapture that moment. And because of that, I have to throw ZACK and WIKI into this race. This was a great puzzle game that largely went unnoticed, and if the only way that we can get them back is in Marvel Vs Capcom Infinite, then so be it. I want to see ZACK use WIKI's transformation powers to smack his opponents with a wide variety of weapons, and then for his super, he calls out his army of pirate bunnies, or he has Captain Rose and Barbaros, the two villains from the game, crash into your opponent with their pirate ships. Number 9, TESSA from Red Earth. Speaking of forgotten games from the history of Capcom, anybody else remember Red Earth? You might not have actually played it, but Red Earth remains one of those games that, despite ever getting a sequel or really being well known at all, most people still recognize something about it. Maybe you remember the giant dinosaur, the lion Conan dude, whatever this guy was, who knows, but Red Earth has always been that, oh yeah, that game of the Capcom library. So it's only fair to grab one character from there, and I'd have to go with Tessa, the witch scientist person. Yeah, I always found that cool about her, that she was very scientific, but she also worked with magic. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm picking her because, as I've said, I like quirky characters in my fighting games, and Tessa could get weird. Let's go with that. But also, she believed in studying the unknown. It was the whole point of her character, so if that is her motivation, and they are indeed going to put a story mode into this game, do you know what kind of crazy situations she would get into when meeting these Marvel characters? Number 8, AKIRA KAZAMA from Rival Schools. I loved Rival Schools. This game came out when I was in high school, and the idea of taking different types of students or faculty members that you'd find in a school and turning them into types of fighters was just what I always wanted in a game. And I would honestly love to see any of these characters put into this game. I'd love to see Dago challenge Dr. Doom, Chairperson take on Captain America, Ron Hibiki take on Spider-Man. But out of all the characters, the one who I think remains the most memorable, while at the same time matching up perfectly with a Marvel counterpart, is AKIRA KAZAMA. She's a biker who wears a skull helmet. If you don't put her in a game where she gets to fight Ghost Rider, then wow, are you missing the obvious matchup from this franchise. Number 7, NECALLI from Street Fighter. Okay, I know what you're going to say. You said you were only going to allow 2 characters from each franchise, and for all of Street Fighter, one of the most iconic fighting games of all time, you chose NECALLI as your second choice? I know, I would have called myself crazy too, but let's look at why I did it. Since Viper, who first appeared in Street Fighter 4, was in the last Marvel vs. Capcom, which came out right after Street Fighter 4, I'm going out on a limb and saying there's about a 90% chance that we're going to get a new character from Street Fighter 5 in here. And yeah, I like some of the other new characters way more. I thought Rashid would have been a great addition. However, think about NECALLI's story. He's a legendary deity of sorts who only appears when strong fighters have gathered together, and he finds the strongest among them and devours their souls in order to gain their power. If this game is going to feature the greatest fighters from all of the Capcom games and all of the Marvel Universe, doesn't it make sense that he would pop up here? Just thinking about this from a story perspective, he actually makes more sense than any other character on this list.
I am the jaws of death. The souls of warriors must return to me.
Number 6, Regina from Dino Crisis. So I love that in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and 3, you could play as Jill Valentine or Frank West and have them actually summon out zombies to attack your opponents. Yes, those were things that they spent their whole games fighting, so it didn't make the most sense for them to be helping you, but who cares? It was a fun mechanic and a tip of the hat to their franchise. But you know what's cooler than summoning zombies? Summoning dinosaurs. Put Regina in there and have her actually summon out dinosaurs with her attacks. She could send out a raptor to counter your opponent on the ground, send out a pterodactyl to counter your opponent in the air, and of course, for her super, the T-Rex. Sorry there wasn't much build up to that, but come on, it's the obvious choice. At number 5, Dr. Wily from Mega Man. Remember how I mentioned that we needed way more Mega Man villains in this game? Well then who better to put in here than the king of Mega Man villains, Dr. Wily. Put him in that floating saucer that he rides around in, just like Trombone rides around in her mech, and then have him fire out of there any of the various weapons that his robot masters use. Imagine hitting your opponents with buzzsaws, ninja stars, a giant fist, and of course, bubbles. Then for his supers, he'll transform his mech for a limited amount of time into any one of the giant mechs that he always faces you in the final levels of Mega Man. And if you defeat him, then rather than having him just lie there unconscious, he lands on his hands and knees and starts begging you for forgiveness and saying that he'll change and asking you to let him go because behind his giant robots, Wily is kind of a wuss. Number 4, BATSU from Rival Schools. Remember when I said that I loved Rival Schools? Remember when I said that out of all the characters that people remembered, AKIRA was probably the best choice for this game? Yeah, I was lying. There is one who is a way better fit for this game, and it's BATSU, the star of the franchise. If you were going to put any character from Rival Schools in this game, it needs to be BATSU. I thought about not including him on here simply because he was in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, and I thought maybe that should count as being in a previous versus game, but I don't care. I will gladly step around that loophole because, well, it's BATSU. I know I should be doing a better job of explaining to everyone out there who hasn't played Rival Schools why this character is so cool, but in the end, he's just kind of the representation of the whole franchise. He's the placeholder to represent all those characters who didn't get into the game, just like Ryu represents all of Street Fighter. So yeah, for my sheer love of this franchise, you need to put him in the game. Number 3.
If you value your lives, you will depart this place.
Donovan from Darkstalkers. So, as I said, I put BATSU this high up because, well, I love Rival Schools and I just want more Rival Schools in my life. Well, you know what other game I need more of? Darkstalkers. Yes, I know I've already mentioned this in the top 20 so far, but I will continue to mention it until I'm holding a new copy of Darkstalkers in my hands. But I'm not just putting Donovan this high up on this list because he represents all the Darkstalkers characters. No, that would be Morgan, and she's already in this game. I'm putting Donovan this high up because he hunts monsters. Do you know how many Marvel characters he could have unique dialogue with? Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, Hulk, and so many more new characters who you could add. And have I even mentioned that he's a half-human, half-vampire hybrid? That alone makes me want to go back and revise my Marvel wish list to add Blade on there. Number 2, Asura from ASURA'S Wrath. Now, throughout this list, I've made many references to the idea that this game is going to have a story mode. Now, in the past, I've actually been opposed to Marvel vs. Capcom having a story mode because this is a game where Chris Redfield can stop Galactus with a gun. The moment you try and apply reason and logic to this thing, it just becomes stupid. But they have said that they are going to have a story mode in here, much like they did in Street Fighter V. So if we have to have a story mode, then it would probably be a good idea to add at least one Capcom character who I actually could see going toe-to-toe with Thor or the Hulk. And Asura, aside from being probably the most popular new character Capcom has created in the last 5 years with his over-the-top levels of rage, is actually capable of fighting guys larger than planets. If the Capcom side needed some extra firepower, he's the guy to turn to. Plus, don't you want to see him and the Hulk have a rage-off? Just comparing who's the angriest one of them all? And at number 1, literally any character from Power Stone. Any character? Yes, any character. In fact, don't just stick to one. Put as many Power Stone characters in this game as you can. Edward Falcon, Rogue, Jack, Valgus, Wang Tang, any of them. Not only was Power Stone an amazing game with fun characters that deserve to come back, which seems to be a theme of this video, so Capcom, get on that, but also the #1 reason why you need Power Stone characters in this game is because in Power Stone, you would fight on an arena and collect colorful stones that popped up, and when you collected all of them, you'd get a power-up and go into a super mode. I repeat, you would collect colorful gems and they would give you powers. Do any of you not know where I'm going with this? Yes, it has already been confirmed that in this new game, we're getting the Infinity Gems as power-ups, and if we're going to have a fighting game with Capcom characters where you have to collect stones to power up, if you don't put Power Stone characters in here, something is wrong with you. Heck, as I said, they want to put a story mode in this game that explains why on earth these different worlds would be coming together. So how about you just say that the Power Stones are Capcom's version of the Infinity Gems and they're reaching out beyond space and time and connecting with each other. It practically writes itself. Hell, Ryu even called the Power Gem the Power Stone in the trailer. Even the characters in your own game are asking for them.
Let's settle this!
That's it for me, everyone. Let me know in the comments down below what Capcom characters you want to see in this game. Also, you can let me know on Twitter, Tumblr, and Twitch, all by just looking for Professor Thorgy. And in case you missed my last list of 20 Marvel characters I want in the game, check it out right there. And if you like these videos, then give them a thumbs up and share them around the web. It really does help us out. So thanks for watching, everyone. Come back next time.